Hello there, I'm David Taylor and I'm back with another one of my video blogs. We're about a month or so really to the show time, to the main show time. We moved into this middle part of May and it's turned a little bit cooler. Some aren't doing too bad. I've got some relatively decent regals coming here. This one's not too bad. It's just started breaking bloom. You could argue that this is actually just a margin ahead of where I would want it to be, but that's going to present a very good plant whatever happens, that one. Zonals, I would generally say my zonals are a bit behind. Here is one that I originally wanted to grow on as a Floribunda class, which is basically a dwarf that's grown on into a 6-inch pot, but this has got one bud coming on it and a few others just beginning to break, but it's going to be very debatable, I think, whether that will make the shows. Some of the others, got a nice bicolour here, Alison March. That's not doing too bad, that's throwing a lot of bud. It's not got a bad shape either, that one, so I'm hopeful that that's at least going to make a pretty decent plant for the shows. Now, something that I get asked a lot about is feed. Obviously, my plants generally look relatively healthy, I'd like to hope anyway. And I get a lot of questions about feed. Just go around your garden centre and you'll see a whole plethora of them. The main one that exhibition growers use is the ChemPack series. There are 3 sort of main versions of the ChemPack feed, based around numbers. Number 2 is the high nitrogen, number 3 is the balanced feed, and this is number 4, the high potash feed. Number 3 is the main one that is used throughout the season. And just before we go into the main showing season now, we're just going over to using number 4, and that's what I've done in about the last week or so. Now there are various other ones. Vitax use a slightly different numbering system. There you go, their balanced feed is called 111. Now those 3 main elements are basically nitrogen, phosphates and potash. They're the 3 main elements that make up the feed. Nitrogen basically enhances leaf and stem growth, and can often be seen if you use something like an overzealous nitrogen mixture, because you'll usually get big blown leaves and lots of floppy growth if you really overdo it with a high nitrogen feed. A balanced feed contains equal elements of nitrogen, the phosphates and the potash. So that's usually the one that's pretty good for Pelargoniums. Now the phosphates, the middle one, develops the roots. It develops basically what's below, if you like, stem level. The potash is obviously the one that enhances bloom, and it also firms the plant up. It develops strength in the stems. It's particularly useful with coloured leaf varieties. Here's an example of a nice golden tricolour plant, and it can really bring out the colour of the leaves, a high potash feed. But nitrogen, phosphates, potash, NPK, and that's the 3 that they are. The K is actually the potash, mainly probably because the P has already been used in the phosphates, but so they're the 3 main elements that make up feed constituents. There's usually a good number of trace elements as well, some of the metals, which is magnesium and things like that, which are very important for plant growth. So they're usually there in very small amounts within those main feeds as well. Some of these liquid feeds are what I generally call a sort of granular salt based, and they're fine using them, but occasionally it is wise to give your plants a break from them, because the salts can build up, particularly in the base. If you're watering using a saucer, you can get a build up of salts in the compost. About once a month I usually have a break, go over to plain water, or this time of year, because I'm wanting to maintain a certain amount of growth, you can go over to something like this Maxicrop seaweed extract, which just gives it's an organic one, obviously based on seaweed, and it really does give the plant a good break from the salts building up. Now there are other types. I mean, you can look at things like Miracle Grow, A lot of the Miracle Grow feeds do tend to have a little bit more nitrogen in them, so it is worth keeping an eye out for those. If you want something to grow on a bit faster and really put on a bit of growth weight, you know, some of the Miracle Grow feeds are pretty good. Now, it's important to note that I feed my plants all year round, which is again probably why they're looking relatively healthy. Now, even in the winter I use a half-strength liquid feed because the plants are really wanting to grow even in the winter. If you're keeping a frost-free greenhouse, they will want to continue to grow, particularly if the weather's relatively mild. But you need to remember that they're only being watered about once a week or once a fortnight at the most. So it's still worth doing to keep them growing, because Pelargoniums are basically evergreen perennials and they just keep growing non-stop even in frost-free conditions. It's important to go full strength. At this time of year I'm giving my plants virtually about sort of 2/3 strength at every watering. Most of my plants now are getting watered twice a week, and sometimes even a bit more than that, but they're still getting about a 2/3 strength of a liquid feed. Now you can, if you wish, use things like Osmocote, which is the little pelleted feed granules that you can mix up with your compost. That's fine and is often used widely in making hanging baskets and that sort of thing. Okay, well that's all from me for now. I'll hopefully be back towards the end of the month or into June, and we'll see how things are going with a number of my plants as we approach the show season. We'll also hopefully next time be able to start putting some of our tubs and baskets outside, so we'll see that in action and see how it goes. So I'll see you next time. Goodbye.